What do you? What do you? What do you?
Conspiracy Theory, Project Blue Beam. Before we begin, do not forget to like and subscribe for more of this kind of videos.
1. Project Blue Beam. Project Blue Beam is a conspiracy theory that claims that NASA is attempting to implement a New Age religion with the Antichrist at its head and start a new world order via a technologically simulated second coming. The allegations were presented in 1994 by Quebecois journalist and conspiracy theorist Serge Monast, and later published in his book Project Blue Beam. NASA proponents of the theory allege that Monast and another unnamed journalist, who both died of heart attacks in 1996, were in fact assassinated, and that the Canadian government kidnapped Monast's daughter in an effort to dissuade him from investigating Project Blue Beam. The project was apparently supposed to be implemented in 1983. But it didn't happen. It was then set for implementation in 1995 and then 1996. Monast thought Project Blue Beam would be brought to fruition by the year 2000. Really? 2. Structure. Project Blue Beam has all the usual hallmarks of a conspiracy theory. It attempts to shoehorn events that have happened, and are happening, into its predictive framework, particularly with references to films being used to prep people psychologically for the conspiracy's dramatic conclusion. It shows a lack of comprehension of the practical psychology of those who are not paranoid. It plays on fears of alleged advanced technology that most people, including its author, do not understand. The theory itself cobbles together the past conspiracy tropes, starting from paranoia and progressing to technologically implausible plans with motivations that literally do not make any sense. The theorist's death from a middle-aged heart attack cut off its possible spread early and left it short on source material in English, though there is the tantalizing promise of several books worth in French, but did cap the theory itself off nicely. 3. The theory. The alleged purpose of Project Blue Beam is to bring about a global New Age religion, which is seen as a core requirement for the New World Order's dictatorship to be realized. There's nothing new in thinking of religion as a form of control, but the existence of multiple religions, spin-off cults, competing sects and atheists suggest that controlling the population entirely through a single religion isn't particularly easy. Past attempts have required mechanisms of totalitarianism such as the Inquisition. Monast's theory, however, suggests using sufficiently advanced technology to trick people into believing. Of course, the plan would have to assume that people could never fathom the trick at all, something contested by anyone sane enough not to swallow this particular conspiracy. The primary claimed perpetrator of Project Blue Beam is NASA, presented as a large and mostly faceless organization that can readily absorb such frankly odd accusations, aided by the United Nations, another old-time boogeyman of conspiracy theorists. According to Monast, the project has 4 steps. Step 1. Step 1 requires the breakdown of all archaeological knowledge. This will apparently be accomplished by faking earthquakes at precise locations around the planet. Fake, new discoveries at these locations will finally explain to all people the error of all fundamental religious doctrines, specifically Christian and Muslim doctrines. This makes some degree of sense. If you want to usurp a current way of thinking, you need to completely destroy it before putting forward your own. However, religious belief is notoriously resilient to things like facts. The Shroud of Turin is a famous example that is still believed by many to be a genuine shroud of Jesus, as opposed to the medieval forgery that it has been conclusively shown to be. prayer studies. 2. Show how difficult it is to shift religious conviction with mere observational fact. Indeed, many theologians avoid making falsifiable claims or place belief somewhere specifically beyond observation to aid this. So what finds could possibly fundamentally destroy both Christianity and Islam, almost overnight, and universally all over the globe? Probably nothing. Yet, this is only step one of an increasingly ludicrous set of events that Project Bluebeam predicts will occur. Step 2. Step 2 involves a gigantic space show, wherein three-dimensional holographic laser projections will be beamed all over the planet, and this is where Bluebeam really takes off. The projections will take the shape of whatever deity is most predominant, and will speak in all languages. At the end of this light show, the gods will all merge into one god, the Antichrist. This is a rather baffling plan, as it seems to assume people will think this is actually their god, rather than the more natural 21st century assumption that it is a particularly opaque Coca-Cola advertisement. Evidence commonly advanced for this is a supposed plan to project the face of Allah, despite its contradiction with Muslim belief of God's uniqueness, over Baghdad in 1991 to tell the Iraqis to overthrow Saddam Hussein. Someone, somewhere, must have thought those primitive, ignorant non-Western savages wouldn't have had television or advertising, and would never guess it was being done with mirrors. In general, pretty much anything that either A involves light or B has been seen in the sky has been put forward as evidence that Project Bluebeam is real. And such things are tests of the technology, namely unidentified flying objects. Existing display technology such as 3D projection mapping and holograms are put forward as foreshadowing the Great Light Show in the sky. This stage will apparently be accomplished with the aid of a Soviet computer that will be fed with a minute physio-psychological particulars based on our studies of the anatomy and electromechanical composition of the human body, and the studies of the electrical, chemical and biological properties of the human brain, and every human has been allocated a unique radio wavelength. The computers are also capable of inducing suicidal thoughts. The Soviets are, not, were, the New World Order people. Why NASA would use a Soviet computer when the USSR had to import or copy much of its computer technology from the West is not detailed. The second part of Step 2 happens when the holograms result in the dissolution of social and religious order, setting loose millions of programmed religious fanatics through demonic possession on a scale never witnessed before. The United Nations plans to use Beethoven's Ode to Joy as the anthem for the introduction of the New Age One World religion. There is relatively little to debunk in this, the most widely remembered section of the Project Bluebeam conspiracy, as the idea is so infeasible. Citing actual existing communication technology is odd if the point is for the end product to appear magical, rather than just as cheap laser projections onto clouds. This hasn't stopped some very strange conspiracy theories about such things popping up. Indeed, the notion of gods being projected into the sky was floated in 1991 by conspiracy theorist Betty J. Mills, and U.S. General and seer shyster extraordinaire Edward Lansdale actually floated a plan to fake a second coming over Cuba to get rid of Castro. Step 3. Step 3 is telepathic electronic two-way communication. It involves making people think their God is speaking to them through telepathy, projected into the head of each person individually using extreme low-frequency radio waves. Atheists will presumably hear an absence of Richard Dawkins. The book goes to some lengths to describe how this would be feasible, including a claim that L-thought projection caused the depressive illness of Michael Dukakis's wife Kitty. Step 4. Step 4 has 3 parts. 1. Making humanity think an alien invasion is about to occur at every major city. 2. Making the Christians think the rapture is about to happen. 3. A mixture of electronic and supernatural forces, allowing the supernatural forces to travel through fiber optics, coax, power and telephone lines to penetrate all electronic equipment and appliances. That will by then all have a special microchip installed. Then chaos will break out, and people will finally be willing, perhaps even desperate, to accept the New World Order. The techniques used in the 4th step is exactly the same used in the past in the USSR to force the people to accept communism. A device has apparently already been perfected that will lift enormous numbers of people. As in a rapture, UFO abductions are tests of this device. Project Blue Beam proponents believe psychological preparations have already been made, Monast having claimed that 2001: A Space Odyssey, Star Wars and the Star Trek series all involve an invasion from space and all nations coming together. The first 2 don't. The third is peaceful contact, and that Jurassic Park propagandizes evolution in order to make people think God's words are lies. 4. The New World Order. According to Monast, the book detailed the theory. In the 1994 lecture, Monast detailed what would happen afterwards. All people will be required to take an oath to Lucifer with a ritual initiation to enter the New World Order. Resistors will be categorized as follows. 1. Christian children will be kept for human sacrifice as sexual slaves. 2. Prisoners to be used in medical experiments. 3. Prisoners to be used as living organ banks. 4. Healthy workers in slave labor camps. 5. Uncertain prisoners in the International Re-Education Center, thence to repent on television and learn to glorify the New World Order. 6. The International Execution Center. 7. An as yet unknown 7th classification. 5. If this project succeeds, they get full control over the world, all humanity will be enslaved and other beings will not have the power to do anything. Unless you help to make a difference, and warn humanity before it's too late. In the description you will find a link to another video on another channel, where they chow the test of Blue Beam project.
This was it. Did you like this video and do you want more of this kind of videos? Then just like and subscribe.